Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but we want to give a shout out to our partners, the Florida Coaches Coalition, We Coach, Vital Signs Wall of Fame, and the Global Community of Women in High School Sports. You've heard me say many times, these are four great organizations. You should really add them to your network. And now don't hit that fast forward button. Stay with us for the next 3 minutes. We're just going to give our sponsors their shout out. These are all great products that I used as an AD or as a coach. You should be using them too. Here we go. We want to thank Home Campus for their support of the podcast. Home Campus is the exclusive high school and state association management platform, and it's your one-stop platform for scheduling, student athlete eligibility and clearance, and a whole lot more. As an AD, I used Home Campus every single day, and it was just fantastic. And it will be for you too. Go to homecampus.com to get started. That's all you have to do. Go to homecampus.com. We also want to say thanks to Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. You know, they're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all your sports, for all your teams, or your school's Hall of Fame, check out their interactive touchscreen consoles at vitalsignswalloffame.com. Mention the podcast, you'll get a nice discount. vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check them out today. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com. Start creating custom content for your school's social media channel. Celebrate your teams, promote your athletes, get your program out there on social media. Go to Gipper.com. Tell them you heard about it on the podcast. Guess what? They'll give you a nice discount. That's Gipper.com. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to Huddle.com. Change the way you see the game. I used Huddle as a football coach, and I definitely used it as an athletic director. And our coaches just love the tools that Huddle provided to help them coach our kids at the highest level. Go to Huddle.com. Change the way you see the game. Teams believe in Huddle. We believe in Huddle. Join the 6 million users. Turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Do I need to say anything more? Go to hometownticketing.com. They have digital ticketing with more support, more security, more customization. Hometown, no question. It's the best solution for you. Go to hometownticketing.com. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule a live web demo and see their indoor score tables and video boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Check out their great products today. We want to thank District 1 for their support. Go to District 1, that's WON, and you're going to feel like you've won when you see their fully custom uniforms, their on-time shipping, and their one-at-a-time replacement program. You'll never have to buy a full set of uniforms again when you just need to buy one or two replacements. Go to District 1, click on the Team Gear button, you'll get your free quote. That's district1.com. We want to thank Snap Mobile for their support. Go to snapraise.com. Check out their entire suite of platforms, including Snap Raise, their fundraising platform, hands down the best fundraiser out there. But there's also Snap Store, Snap Manage, Snap Connect, and more. You'll find it all at snapraise.com. And we want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that'll let you take the pulse of your parents and your student athletes. ADs already hear back from the complainers, the 2% that want to gripe. Athletic Surveys will connect you with the 2%, but they'll also connect you with the 98% that love and support your program, which is a tremendously valuable tool to have when you're talking to a frustrated parent or your principal or your school board. Once again, go to athleticsurveys.com to get started. athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. We're going back to Vermont today, and we're going to be visiting with Connor Bean. Connor, until recently, was the athletic director at Craftsbury Academy, as he will say, a small school up in Vermont. He's getting ready to take the reins of the director of athletics position at Bellows Falls Union High School in Vermont. I'm going to let him tell a little bit more about that. But Connor, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Thanks, Jakes, for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Well, you and I connected recently, and I thought you'd be a great guest for our listeners. It's always, great to go back to some place that I actually lived a long time ago. But let's go and jump right in. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us that quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up, maybe take us up through your own college years, and then we'll take a break and then come back and hear about your early career. So what is the Connor Bean origin story?
The Connor Bean origin story. So I'm born native Vermonter, grew up here my entire life, and went to Oxbow High School in Bradford, Vermont. Played football, baseball, and I was actually a bowler. I got recruited. Yeah, I always get that reaction. I got recruited actually in all three sports, mostly at the D3 level. But I went to college at Union College for actually, you guessed it, bowling, men's bowling. They gave me the best offer. I went there, had a blast. It was great to kind of get away from the state and learn a little bit about, outside of New England and just kind of get a different vibe. And it was such a great time, great experience, great friends. And I love the bowling aspect of it as well. I made so many friends through that. But athletics has taught me so much. It's funny because I look back in my life, and in the beginning of my life, I did not care about sports whatsoever. Probably up until middle school, hated sports, wanted nothing to do with them. I was more of like a book nerd, just would read and play video games and stuff. And then I don't know what kind of shifted, but like 8th grade hit, and I was like, Mom, I want to play football. I want to play basketball. I want to do all this other stuff. And it was just kind of crazy, kind of how that all came about. I've always played baseball, though. I played baseball since second grade. So that's always been a passion of mine. Bowling was recent. My dad became the bowling coach. I stopped playing basketball. And he was like, why don't you come out and do this? And I was like, I'm not doing anything in the winter. Why not? And, quickly fell in love with the sport. I've made it a passion of mine to kind of promote the sport in the state. I'm actually also the director of Vermont High School Bowling as well. So I actually run, the state's high school bowling. So I'm a big passionate believer about what the sport has done for me, and I want to give back to other people in that aspect. So, I guess that's probably the best background I have and what my journey has been, at least the beginning journey, and whatnot.
I smile when you say bowling. Obviously, it's not a typical answer. One of our previous guests and a friend of the show, Rebecca Carr, she's an athletic director in Illinois. She was a D1 bowler at Nebraska, which is, kind of a legendary bowling program. And I think it's great. We have bowling here in Florida. It's been around for a number of years at the high school level, and it's growing. It's just it's a great way to get more kids involved. Let's go and stay bowling centric here. Looking back to your days as a high school or as a scholarship bowler, what are some experiences or maybe lessons that you can remember back then? Maybe you didn't realize it then, but now as an AD, you're putting those bowling lessons to work. Anything jump out for you?
I think the time commitment. You think, when you think of traditional sports, you think of the time commitments for those. But, for bowling, we were going from, late September, and if you made the postseason, you were going till April, not just college. And it was insane. It was grueling. It definitely took a toll on me in my senior year, I think. But, it definitely made me resilient because the amount of effort, you're basically doing a full-time job when you're a college athlete. And, I many college athletes kind of don't stick around with it. And I stuck around with it, my entire career, which I feel really proud of, but it also just kind of makes me, I also take lessons from that and, trying to stick around and trying to persevere and push through things, that I might struggle with and that kind of aspect. So I think that's definitely something I take away from it, the camaraderie and the team and all that stuff you still get in bowling. And I've made, like I said before, so many friendships through this sport, so many, and I've made friends from baseball and football, but most of my great friends now have been from bowling. And that's kind of just another thing, it's such a social sport that I take away from this.
Oh, that's great. I'm so glad to hear. And again, I can imagine, the training, as you said, the discipline, that went with being that. Here's my quick bowling story. And I'm a, let's go to the bowling alley 3 times a year. I release it straight. There's no hook at all or anything like that. But years ago, I was teaching and coaching at the college level, and we all had to teach activity classes. And I got assigned to teach bowling one year. So we meet at the bowling alley, we take roll, and I literally taught the class. The kids didn't know this, right out of the book. Okay. I never threw a ball once. But I would, hey, that was good. Do this next time. And, halfway through the class, I have these 18, 19-year-old kids saying, hey, coach, let's bowl. Come on. And I said, no, you don't want to bowl against me. I don't want to, disappoint you. Never rolled the ball in that class once. So I'm sure you would have done a much better job as a teacher. Let's go and take our first break for our listeners. Our guest today is Connor Bean. He's just about ready to take the reins as the athletic director for Bellows Falls Union High School. That's in Vermont. We're going to be back with some more, but stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Home Campus for their support of the podcast. Home Campus is the exclusive high school and state association management platform, and it's your one-stop platform for scheduling, student athlete eligibility and clearance, and a whole lot more. As a high school athletic director, I used Home Campus every single day, and it was just fantastic, and it'll be the same for you. To find out more about Home Campus, just go to homecampus.com. That's homecampus.com. Check them out today. We also want to say thank you to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all your sports, for all the teams, or your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles. It's a great way, as they say, to bring your school's legacy to life. Celebrate your community and showcase your school's diverse history, your proudest moments, and your top role models. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com, mention the podcast, you'll get a nice discount. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest is Connor Bean from Vermont. Connor, you kind of took us up to your college days as a scholarship athlete. Let's go and talk about your early career. What were some of the jobs that you had that led to your present position or upcoming position, let's say, at Bellows Falls?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a long and short road, I guess, in some aspects. I guess I'm actually taking it back to college. So in college, I was actually a student athletic, not student athletic worker, but like a student worker. And I worked actually under a sports information director. So I was a sports information assistant, and then I also worked as the game day manager. So I would set up prep games, lead teams to locker rooms, lead referees to locker rooms, basically kind of, the stuff that you do as AD during game days. And, as a sports information director, I was in charge of, the media, promotion of our athletics. And I found that so much fun. It's definitely something I was looking at out of college to actually get into, but, job market around here for that kind of stuff was pretty limited. So, I graduated college. Before I graduated college, actually, I took up another internship, and I worked with a local summer collegiate baseball team called the Upper Valley Nighthawks. Shout out to Noah Crane, the president and owner. He's an amazing man. He's helped me out tremendously to get to where I am today. And I was an operations assistant. So really basically all I did was kind of similar to game day management, would set up for, if we did giveaways or if we did like in-game promotions or in-game games, like, you do those in between innings kind of games. That's kind of stuff I would do. I'd also do like ticket sales and, helping out, basically just kind of like a general kind of help-ish kind of, position. It was so much fun. I kind of like think about if I ever have time in the summer to kind of go back and do it again with them. But that was a blast. I didn't actually get into sports right away after college. I was still working my previous, summer job, trying to like, trying to figure out what I really want to do. I worked in mental health for about a year and a half. I really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed the kind of atmosphere there as well. But I knew my true calling was in athletics. And I've, since high school, I've always wanted to be an athletic director. So, I made a gamble. I applied to a bunch of different schools. We had a bunch of openings. I think it was last summer, a bunch of athletic director openings in the state. So I applied to a really small school in the middle of basically nowhere, Vermont. I shouldn't say that, but Craftsbury's been great. But Craftsbury Academy, and I was offered the position as a part-time AD, and also did some teaching on the side to supplement the rest of the income to make it full-time. And definitely was a great experience. I learned a lot. Was able to build a program basically from kind of almost the ground up. There's been definitely some 80s that have come and gone. It's definitely, and being a super small school, we had a super limited budget. We didn't have a facilities crew to really, go out and do, the line. So I did most of the lining. We had to contract out our mowing. And sometimes that would only come once a week. So it was sometimes, you get some umpires, the referees that come by and then wonder why the grass is so high. It's like, unfortunately, there's not much we can do. So it was definitely tough, but I think that's helped me a long run because it's made me more independent and doing the job. I was there for about a year. I wanted a bigger challenge, and I saw this opening. My mentor actually was the AD here, and he was leaving. So I inquired about it with him. I was like, "What are your thoughts? You think I could get it possibly?" And he definitely pushed me to kind of apply here, and I did. And I got the interview, and I got the email, and then things from there, and now I'm here at Bellows Falls. So, I guess that's the short, long story. But yeah, I'm one of the youngest ADs in the state. And I'm pretty proud of that fact. I'm pretty proud about where I've kind of come in the last couple of years.
Let's go and stay on that topic. The youngest athletic director in the state, or one of. Obviously, you had some AD experience under your belt from Craftsbury Academy, but what were some of the things that you did specifically? I know intentionally is buzzword now. What were some of the things you did during the application process and the interview process to, as I like to say, sell yourself to the team at Bellows Falls? Who's this young guy and why should we hire him? How did you get them to make that decision in your favor?
I think it was a couple things, honestly. I'm big about kind of like what I said before, not just bowling, but providing sports that are uncommon, untraditional to be able to pull more athletes in, increase athletic numbers. I'm big about that because I want everyone to have that kind of feeling of like teamwork and collectiveness and, making friends through athletics, this experience that you don't really get in your traditional school setting. But, so there's some kids who feel uncomfortable playing like football or basketball or, baseball, those kind of traditional sports. So introducing a sport like bowling or I'm trying to think of something else, but, something along that lines where, you see those more untraditional sports kind of bring in those kids who are hesitant about playing athletics. And then, I saw this really with my brother. So my brother is, I guess you could call him like a typical jock. He's a pretty popular kid, plays football, but bowling's a family thing. So he bowls too. And he is able to be friends with kids that I believe during the school day he would not, associate with or talk with. And sorry, just got a call. So that is something I was a big advocate of, and that as well. Sorry. Okay, there we go.
Hey, it wouldn't be a podcast if somebody's phone, usually mine, was ringing. So no worries.
Yeah, that and I think I lost my train of thought.
You're talking about how you really kind of pride yourself on adding, newer sports, not just say traditional sports.
Yeah. That to me is something I'm big on. And then also I again, being a former mental health advocate, I brought up, the one of my questions I asked for them is what kind of mental health supports you provide your athletes. And I feel like it's something that's not brought up a lot. I struggled with mental health throughout high school and college, and I didn't really come to realize until after I graduated. And I want to be able to provide those supports, whether it's just me talking with a student athlete. I had open hours during my Craftsberry Academy job where, I didn't mind if a student came in and talked to me, whatever it was, if it was about sports, if it was about personal item, and just talking with them and just being a person there for them. I am a big advocate of mental health, again, just working in it, but also someone who's gone through it. And want to be there for my student athletes and anybody, not just them, and make them feel comfortable where they are.
No. And again, I think that is such it's a great thing to do as an AD, but from a hiring standpoint, it's not something that is typically going to come up in an interview from a candidate. So great way to, again, do something that all ADs should be doing, promoting all sports, including the new ones, and great way to set yourself apart. For our listeners, our guest today is Connor Bean. He was the athletic director at Craftsberry Academy up in Vermont, and he's getting ready to take the position of AD at Bellows Falls Union High School, also in Vermont. We're going to give out his contact information later, but let's go and take our second break. We'll be back with some more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Gipper for their support of the podcast. Go to Gipper.com and start creating world-class marketing content for your school's social media channel. You can promote your athletes, promote your team, celebrate all your athletic department accomplishments. Gipper is used by over 3,000 high school and college athletic programs across the country. And it's so easy, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com, mention the podcast, and they'll give you a nice discount. That's Gipper.com. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to Huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided to help them coach our kids at the highest level. At Huddle, we believe in sports, and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 6 million users and turn your school into a Huddle school.
And I just want to add on about Gipper that I have really enjoyed using that service. I enjoyed definitely had the ease of it, especially being a former sports information assistant director. It's definitely made it the process so much quicker to get game day posts, and I think my athletes have really liked it as well because before they didn't really get publicized as much. So being able to post on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, pictures of them with a game day phrase or their final score point tally, I think has definitely been a big plus, and I think we'll continue to use that service coming here to Bellows Falls.
Well, thanks so much for giving that shout out. Again, we use Gipper with the podcast. I didn't get a chance to use it at the school I was at because I was retiring just as they were really, hitting their stride. But I know there's ADs like you all across the country that use it. And again, I always say this, it is so easy. Even I can use it. And you bring up a great point. We're not trying to turn this into an extra Gipper commercial, but that's where the kids are. The kids are on social media. And so if you put your schools, your teams, your logos, your scores out there, your kids and their families are going to see that. So thanks for sharing. Um, let's go and jump into our next talking point. We get a lot of, let's say, younger or newer ADs like you that listen to the podcast. And I think it's important for them to hear about the journey that we are all on with our state association and with the NIAAA. So if you can share with our listeners, where are you at? How did you hear about the Vermont Association? And again, where are you at with your NIAAA journey?
Yeah, how I first heard about the Vermont Association. I mean, when I first started, I knew about it beforehand. And so when I first started, I made a point to join because I really like the extra support. I kind of like to phrase it like our state athletic director association is like a little family. We all kind of like, no matter what our school rivalries are, whatever, we all look out for each other. We're all here to help each other, and I think that's definitely this year alone has made my first year's AD so much easier. Being able to go to somebody with 10 years experience or even just like 2 or 3 years experience to be like, hey, let me ask you this. And for them, they're open to any questions, no matter how crazy it might sound or whatever, or how dumb I might think it sounds. And, they'll answer it. There's definitely like quite a few ADs that I really just go to, no matter the question. So I've made a point to go to every meeting in person just for that connection. And going to our state association, state meeting as well. Like when you gave your speech at our state meeting, I was there in person, and but I enjoy that. I just enjoy being around other people who understand what we do day to day, and the struggle and the time and effort it takes to build these programs. But as far as my CAA, it's something that I really want to get done. I just haven't. I think being a little overwhelmed in my first year, I wasn't able to kind of jump into it. I'm hoping once I get settled here, it's something I can start up. I've always also wanted to go pursue my master's as well in athletic administration or something along that lines. So it's definitely something that I have been keen and interested in doing. It's just the time compartment has been really difficult for me.
I'm pretty good friends with your Vermont leadership, and I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What are some of the things that they do to help promote professional development within the Vermont AD community?
I think they do a really good job at just like and I could speak on Jerry, especially. She always sends out every once in a while, classes that are being offered, and extra, a lot of it is classes for professional development. And they always make it like a point, to try and come out and take some of these classes. It's great for them. They definitely, especially the heads of the committee, definitely make a really good point. And as far as other stuff, we have our state conference, which I had an absolute blast at. Just meeting individuals, hearing individuals talk and speak, and again, just connecting with people, not just our ADs, but vendors, and again, meeting you, listening to you speak, and then finding out and discovering this podcast and discovering the Facebook group as well. That's been really helpful for me. Again, asking other ADs like, hey, what's your opinion on this, or I'm having trouble with this. It's been really, really good, and I love that kind of feeling of how everyone just kind of looks out for each other. It's something I've really enjoyed in this position.
All right, since you brought up my my presentation there at Vermont, what'd you think of my inspirational and a little bit of magic show? Would you recommend that to athletic directors? Have me come in and present to them?
Yeah, I think I definitely would. It definitely was a good time, hearing again, someone outside the state to speak on their, your experiences as like a Florida AD is definitely going to be different than ours, but there's also going to be some similarities. You know what I mean? So it was really good to kind of just hear what you had, for experiences. And I definitely recommend it. I definitely would love to hear it again, honestly.
All right. Well, there you go. If you want me to come up and present to your coaches, you let me know. I'll be on the way.
Will do.
We'll do this again at the end of the podcast, but Connor, we also like to create networking opportunities. So if one of our listeners wanted to reach out, connect with you, find out how you do things at your program, whether it's bowling or anything else, what's the best way they can get a hold of Connor Bean?
Yeah, probably best way is email or cell. My email is connor.bean@wnesu.com. You could also, again, probably if you want to get directly, my cell is 802-356-2393. And I respond pretty quickly to, I might not respond right away to the phone call, but if you leave a voicemail, I'll usually call you back, or texts are really easy for me as well. So.
Yeah, listeners, text him first. Let him know who you are before you give him that cold call. But we'll give out that information again at the end of the podcast. So, again, our guest is Connor Bean, athletic director from Vermont. We're going to take another break, but we're coming back with more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing for their support. Go to hometownticketing.com. Simple and easy online ticketing. But you're going to find that Hometown is digital ticketing that offers more things like more support, more security, and more customization. At Hometown, they're not only going to show you how to set up and sell your tickets online, but they're also going to show you how to scan the attendees, collect your revenue, and every step of the way, you'll have a dedicated client success manager that provides hands-on support every step of the way. And remember, online ticketing is not just for your athletic events. You can sell online tickets for school plays, concerts, school dances, even graduation. You'll find it all at hometownticketing.com. Digital ticketing that offers more. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo to see their tables and their scoreboards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Of course, we use it for home games, but we also used it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. It's tremendously versatile, and the customer service is just outstanding. Go to sidelineinteractive.com, schedule that live web demo today. That's sidelineinteractive.com. Welcome back to the Educational AD Podcast. Connor, one of the things that we try to do at the podcast is this idea of sharing best practices. So I'm going to put you on the spot again. What are some things that you've done at Craftsbury, and maybe you're already planning on doing them at Bellows Falls, or maybe you've seen them at another school, but what are some things that you would put that best practices tag on that you can share with our listeners?
Yeah. I think either probably I can go back on this and I want to say definitely the mental health support for student athletes. Like I said, I'm a big advocator and big, proponent of, giving our student athletes, the best mental health support they could get. And obviously, we're probably not in a position to hire like a sports psychologist or, whatnot here at our, even still compared to the other schools, a small Vermont school. So, but like just being there for a student athlete, being and helping them and just talking with them through, anything in their life, and then also just giving them the resources, if they are struggling, here's someone to reach out to, for true help. I think that's something I'm again a big advocator on, and I want to keep going, and I want to also just expand throughout the state and make it a bigger part of more athletic directors. I should say responsibilities because we're all swamped, but just definitely if it's just like lending an ear to a student athlete, just doing small stuff like that really I feel like goes a long way. I also just like again, connecting with student athletes. And I started this kind of towards the tail end of Craftsberry, but I'd like to kind of continue it and bring it here as doing like a student leadership kind of group. I was really big on that. We had some good early success with it. It kind of fell off as the year got busy. End of the year got busy, I should say. But bringing something like that and having, captains and, I'm not sure how exactly I'm going to structure it here, but, having those individuals, come together and voice their opinions on, programs and on, certain things that, I might miss as athletic director because I'm not a student or a student athlete. So giving them that kind of voice and letting them know that, hey, I'm here to listen as well and take, their opinions into consideration for certain things.
The mental health, mental health awareness is just so important. And I look back 100 years ago when I was in high school, it was just something that was never even remotely discussed. And it's not right, wrong, good or bad. It's just the way it was. But nowadays, I think coaches and athletic directors are obviously doing a much better job in both directions for themselves, taking care of their own mental health, as well as for their student athletes. Looking ahead, and again, I know I'm putting you on the spot here. What are kind of some broad brush strokes, some basic steps that you're planning to do at your new high school to kind of introduce? And again, I already used the word be intentional about this. Have you got anything planned out yet?
Slightly. Right now, I'm trying to just like take it day by day. But my bigger picture again is introducing, student leadership groups. And again, introducing more sports, more untraditional sports. Introducing unified basketball is definitely something I want to bring here. Small stuff like that I want to start working towards. That along with some facility stuff. That's kind of at least on my mind so far. I'm sure once I start getting the nitty gritty, I'm going to have like a list of things that, I want to do. But, it's stuff like that, that again, I kind of talked about previously on this is what I want to, on my mind of what I want to bring here.
No, absolutely. I was the athletic director at a couple of different schools, so I know all about that transition, coming in and getting set up. Here's some free advice that you didn't ask for. Probably one of the best things I ever did was I started basically early July. So it was summer, it was relaxed. I sent an email to every single coach, head coach, assistant coach, teacher coach, volunteer coach. They already knew who I was, but I just said, hey, I'm excited about the job. Please come in this summer. Let's meet. I want to get to know you. And just about everybody came in, almost 100 coaches. And the very first question, very first thing I said to him was, what can I do to make your job more fun? And it just really unleashed the floodgates. I had Hall of Fame coaches that were saying, nobody ever asked us that before. And it just really built that credibility early. And of course, I had to follow up on it. But, there's that free advice. What can I do to make your job more fun? And sometimes, there are things that we couldn't do, but a lot of times, we were able to make some changes and help them have more fun with their jobs. For listeners, our guest today is Connor Bean. He's the director of athletics for Bellows Falls Union High School. That's up in Vermont. We're going to take another break. I know that's shocking to our regular listeners, but we are coming back with some more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to say thank you to District 1. That's WON. And you're going to feel like you've won when you check out their fully custom uniforms, their on-time delivery, 20 business days or less, and their one-at-a-time replacement program. You're never going to have to order a full set of uniforms again when you just need one or two replacement pieces. Go to district1.com, click on the Team Gear button, and you'll get a free quote. District 1, WON, district1.com. We also want to say thank you to Snap Mobile. Go to snapraise.com snapraise.com. That's snapraise.com. Check out their entire suite of platforms designed to help you do your job better. Of course, they have Snap Raise, their fundraising platform, hands down the best fundraiser out there. They will even give you your money before you actually start your fundraiser. Nobody else does that. You also have Snap Store, Snap Connect, Snap Manage, and all the other platforms. You'll find it all at snapraise.com. Snapraise.com. Check them out today. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Connor, one of the questions that we've been asking pretty much since the podcast started 3 years ago has to do with this idea of social awareness. How can an athletic director do a better job, not just within the school for the students and the stakeholders, but out in the community as well? Do you have any advice for us?
Yeah, I guess I can draw on some recent experience. Before I was trying to, my idea of kind of like is building and not just like athletic school, but athletic community. I feel like community plays heavily in athletics. Without community, you don't really have much athletics, and without athletics, sometimes you don't have that community, stronghold. And that's something I tried to build at Craftsberry, with some success. We started a boosters club. We worked kind of heavily with integrating youth athletics into the school system, but something I think I'm going to continue going forward here at Bellows Falls. At Bellows Falls, I know they have a historic athletic past. I know athletics is a huge deal in this community. It's really big. So I've reached out to their booster club. I'm offering to sit in on some meetings. I want to gain more insights in the community, and just hear from community members what they think of the athletics programs and what would they see differently, and definitely just taking in some of that advice, because again, these are stakeholders of your community, and I feel like I want to value their advice and just what they see around us, because they can definitely offer you a different view than what you might be seeing is in the school system. So, I think that's been a really valuable aspect, and I definitely want a lot of community outreach as well. I want to get involved in kind of, having our teams, and I believe they've probably already done this, but a lot of teams volunteering and making our teams, known for that kind of stuff, and letting them get to know, maybe alumni who doesn't have a kid at the school anymore, but, still semi-interested. And now that he sees, a couple football players helping, maybe it's move some of his trash or mow his, something like that, and just helping out the community and building that connection and keeping that connection. I think it's just really valuable. It's something that I felt like as a student athlete when I was a kid, I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed being proud of my community and being proud of, I wear this, color or this logo or, this school on my sleeve. Basically, I took that personally. I wanted to represent my community the best of my ability. So it's just something I've cared about and something that I've continued to do as an athletic director, is just trying to integrate community somewhat into our athletics programming.
That's something that I mention frequently. You talk about the desire of a youngster, let's say in junior high. Boy, I can't wait till I get to the high school. I can't wait till I put on that uniform. And unfortunately, I think the pendulum is still swung in that opposite direction too much. You hear, well, what about my minutes? How about my reps? How many touches am I going to get? And it's more about me than it is about the team. So as someone who's, again, I'm not putting you in that role, but as somebody who is closer to that age group than I am, certainly, what are some ways that we can move that pendulum back? So, again, we're still acknowledging the individual, don't get me wrong, but we're focusing on the team, because I think that's where a lot of coaches and ADs are coming from. I know I'm ambushing you with this question, but any advice, any suggestions on that? How do we get back to more of a team focus?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And it's definitely there's definitely a lot of ways you can answer that. Some of it has definitely been it's I'm not even sure if I have an answer for that. It's hard. When I like again going back to my experience, I guess it's something I can pull from is I wouldn't say I was a really good player. I didn't really play a lot in football until my senior year or baseball again until my senior year. So it's like, but I still felt like I probably had some grumblings, looking back at, but I still want to be part of that team. I wanted to like feel accomplished. And maybe that's what it is finding those individuals who want to feel like they have a place. And I think going back, something else I said is like I made so many friends through sports. I think that's kind of what kept me through sports. Sometimes, having those like grumbling thoughts. It's like I'm thinking about my friends. I was on teams with like our football team my senior year probably had 25 kids on it. So I'm thinking about if I leave, that's one less sub for the football team, and that I'm also hurting the team in that aspect as well. And I want my community on, like I wear it like on my jersey, and I want to represent that the best of my ability. So I think in a way it was me trying to like give back to the community and give back to my friends. I think a really good I'm looking back at my Craftsbury experience. I had this one student athlete who graduated this year. He's a great individual. He's in the Army now. He's actually in basic right now, but he said something really interesting to me and some other kids. He being at Craftsbury, we have really small teams. I think we ended last year with 7 guys in the men's basketball team. But he made it a really big point. Like, sometimes I don't enjoy playing sports, but I play so my friends can play. And that to me, was eye opening because like, I never thought of that as a kid. I'm playing for my friends. So having that kind of mindset, I think there's still some kids out there, and maybe I didn't quite answer your question, but I think it's definitely a difficult question to answer, but I feel like there are those kids out there that are natural leaders and might not be super talented, but want to be there, and finding those kids and pointing them out and making emphasis is like, this kid's here nonstop, every practice, and reminds you of another kid at Craftsbury. We had another kid who might not be a really good basketball player, but he showed up every basketball practice. He was there, and it was phenomenal, and he did. Unfortunately, he had some injuries that kind of cost him towards the end of the basketball season, but he kind of just fell off with it because of that. But he showed up. He showed up to everything: soccer, basketball. He showed up to baseball practice, and he was phenomenal. And I just loved to see that, and I still think those kids are out there. And I guess it's just about finding them and making them. I guess coaches making them a point of emphasis to like, this is a model student athlete. He's here every day. He shows up to school every day. He does his work. That kind of stuff. I'm not sure again if I answered your question, but that's just again, I guess my thoughts on that.
And I appreciate you sharing. And it's not something that anybody's just going to whip out an easy answer to because it's such a complex question. And maybe that's just the way our young kids are wired right now. That it is a me first and team second. And as long as they're keeping the team in mind, I guess that's okay. But again, old dinosaurs like me, we still. We look back at those old days and say, this is how it used to be. But I do appreciate you sharing your thoughts. It is important. Well, Connor, this has been cool spending some more time with you. Again, we connected up at your state conference, but we're not done yet. We always wrap up with the athletic director's toolbox. And, you're not a brand new AD, but you're certainly, more at the beginning of your career. We're going to take our final break. And when we come back, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new AD on their very first job. But I'm only going to let you put 3 things in their toolbox. So let's take our final break here from Athletic Surveys, who sponsored this segment. And when we come back, we're going to find out what Connor Bean is going to put in his new athletic director toolbox. We want to say thank you to Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment. Athletic Surveys are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. Athletic directors typically hear back from the complainers, the 2% that want to gripe about everything. Athletic surveys will connect you to that 2%, but they're also going to connect you to the 98% that love and support your program. And that's a tremendously valuable tool to have when you're talking to that frustrated parent or your principal or your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey for your school that allows you to take the pulse of your parents and your student athletes. That's athleticsurveys.com. Let them help you take your program from good to great. Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. It's that time. We've been visiting with Connor Bean. He's the athletic director at Bellows Falls Union High School up in Vermont. He's been an AD for a while, but right now I'm going to challenge him to send out a brand new athletic director, and I'm only going to let him put 3 things in their toolbox. So, Connor, what 3 tools are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
Yeah, definitely. I think the first one is, I guess not necessarily a tool, but finding that support system. Finding who you can go to for help, because again, it's not an easy job, and there's not going to be many people or at all sometimes at your school that know exactly what you do. So reaching out again to a local athletic director association, like kind of what I did early on, and making those connections count, and not being afraid also to go to them and ask sometimes the silliest questions. And like I said, I sometimes in the beginning I struggled with that, just because like, oh, does this sound a little too ridiculous? But now I'm comfortable like asking that, because I know like they're not afraid to do that. And again, it's a big component of what I love about this state and the state's association, is just how supportive we are of each other. I think another one is just finding, and I guess this goes for anyone too, finding that kind of time for yourself, that time to kind of unwind. It's a hard job, and I found that out going in my first year with a lot of the issues that you deal with nowadays in athletics. It's not as simple as I think some people realize. And finding that time for yourself, and just to like give yourself a break, and even just like a little pep talk, like you're doing a good job. I think that's something I struggled with my first year a lot, was being like, am I really doing a good job? Am I really doing what people are saying I'm doing good? Because I definitely felt like I could be doing better at some point. So just finding your own time for your own mental health and your own well-being, I think is a really important thing to do. And lastly, I guess I'm sure a lot of people have said this, but organizational skills, it's something that I'm still needing to improve on. And I'm sure everybody, I'm sure everyone will say that. It's something that, just going in, with a fresh mind and being organized will help you so much better. Going down the line, knowing where things are, and knowing where, hey, I know where I left that. I left it in the so-and-so folder. That's something I think, is beyond valuable, because doing that, especially in a high pressure situation, like, oh, I don't know where I put this referee form, did I throw it out, but instead of having that filed away and being like, oh, okay, I forgot to submit this, or my business office lost it, going into your filing cabinet, pulling out from whatever date, and resubmitting it, stuff like that, those little stuff that at the time you might like toss out because you're like, oh, I won't need this ever again, just doing stuff like that. I think it's just helpful, and definitely makes your job as an AD easier. I guess those are the big 3, I guess, in my book that have been important for me, that I would love to send out with, the next kind of inspiring AD.
Yeah, all 3 are fantastic. Of course, you have to be organized. I'll have to go back and look at our current tally, but I think that might be the number 1 suggestion. But I always love when athletic directors, particularly young ADs like yourself, talk about the importance of taking time for yourself, that self-care. pour yourself out into the job, do a great job with the job. But when you go home, leave the job at home, take time for yourself, take time for family. Um, it's a tool that I should have used more of during the course of my career. So again, appreciate you sharing. Connor, again, this has been great. If one of our listeners wants to reach out, and you talked about reaching out and networking, somebody wants to reach out and connect with you, what's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, I'll bring up my email and cell again. So it's my email is connor.bean, that's CONNOR.bean, BEAN at WNESU.com. And you can email anytime. I'm a pretty quick responder. And then my cell is 802 356 2393, and just shoot me a text. And if you want to set up a call and whatnot, I'm definitely down for that. I'm pretty open for this month, other than trying to get ready for the upcoming fall season. So I'm definitely willing to sit down and talk with someone, exchange ideas and whatnot. I think I brought up a lot, but I feel like networking and just finding those other people that do your job, the same thing as you, is powerful. It's a powerful thing. It makes your life easier sometimes.
Absolutely. And again, we appreciate you sharing. Connor Bean, Bellows Falls Union High School. Thanks for coming on the podcast, and all the best with the coming school year.
Thank you so much, Jake. I really loved being on here.
You were great. We appreciate you spending the time. For listeners, we do this just about every day, and we upload the Zoom videos to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening. Come back next time for more great interviews, and just about every day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time.